Divine Affliction, the intersection of gender and music production, is a creative practice-led research project in the field of music production, investigating the representation of female producers in the field and the feminine aesthetics in music production. These two terms, divine and affliction, describe my experience with the intersection of gender and music production. Divine describes the feminine aesthetics of music production, and affliction I attribute to the representation of female producers in the field. Wolf states that female producers are marked primarily for their absence in the field and have been under-researched, along with analysis of their practice. By exploring established ideas about music production, gender, identity, reflexivity, subjectivity, and culture, this study contributes substantial research on the female producer and her practice. With this project, I argue that the feminine aesthetics of music production are different than a masculine aesthetic, but of equal value musically and technically. With the words of MacArthur, moreover, it becomes obvious that I want to demonstrate its difference in order to celebrate its worth. On the other hand, it is apparent that I am painfully aware of the deficiencies involved in such an argument. These deficiencies are formed from outdated patriarchal assumptions, which I believe can be impacted through media representations of females in this environment and a reconstruction of music production discourse with a feminine vernacular, based in inclusivity. Mills states feminist work has been active in bringing about change in representational practices through critique, through teaching, and through developing new models of writing practice. These constitute the aim of this study: to develop knowledge on the feminine aesthetics of music production and critique the afflictions with a feminine perception through a feminine lens, creating a representation of a female producer in this environment and providing a pedagogical source of access to music production for females through this process. This project is situated within a feminist paradigm, drawing upon feminist theory as defined by Schultz. This project is designed with a mixed method approach, which triangulates ethnography, practice, and theory in order to provide validity to my arguments on the feminine aesthetics of music production and the representation of female producers in the culture of music production. This practice-led research project has a creative component in cohesion with an academic component. This project was conceived from my own experiences of divinity and affliction with my practice of music production and the intersection of gender and music production. I have been investigating the idea that women are underrepresented and women have a unique aesthetic in music production. My experiences are an autoethnographic rationalisation of the project. This led to an extensive literature survey, theorising how gender affects my creative practice and product, representationally and aesthetically. The theoretical paradigms within which I am working are explored through the analysis of secondary texts. The exploration of these concepts then led into research on creative practice, producing an album titled Divine Affliction. I investigated how being a female affects my creative practice and my creative product aesthetically. The album is a representation of the female process to music production and illustrates the feminine aesthetic in music production. I completed autoethnographic reflections along with reflections on my creative practice during this process. These reflections are published in a series of blogs, which also serve the purpose of being a pedagogical tool for females on music production, deconstructing the creative process of producing the album. The practitioner reflections situate this study and provide impetus for further action. I then conducted ethnographic interviews with several other female producers in the field regarding their feelings and experience of representation in music production, along with their thoughts on the feminine aesthetics to their music production. The interviews provide a translocal perspective, with both exploration on studio producers and artist-producer DJs, describing the feminine culture of music production through subjective parallel narratives of females' processes and experiences, exploring and critiquing social constructs, practices, individual attitudes, behaviours and values, connecting my autobiographical story to a wider cultural, social, and political understandings of the female producer and her experience. These ethnographic interviews serve as a way to confirm that this experience was not just singular, but has a translocal resonance with other females' experiences, and as a way to build community and get solidarity within our minority in the industry, transforming my experience into a prevailing experience of the female producer in this context, legitimising my arguments and practitioner reflections. This allows for a comprehensive view on the female producer from her perspective. I support the two theoretical concepts of the feminine aesthetics of music production and the representation of female producers through ethnography, practice, and literature. The output of these three approaches to gaining information has been: the literature is a theoretical contribution to the fields of popular musicology, cultural sociology, and feminist theory. The output of the ethnography is building community, solidarity, and to articulate the theoretical knowledge and get validation from a translocal perspective, justifying my experiences and inquiry through parallel subjective narratives. The album has been about the practice of music production, illustrating the feminine aesthetics and representing a female in this culture, along with gaining reflections on my practice through this process, and developed pedagogical resources on music production for other women through the reflection process. There is also the artistic contribution of the music. The academic aspects of this work are documented in the exegesis. The role of the exegesis is to provide a space to have theoretical discussions on the representation of female producers and the feminine aesthetics of female music production. The theory has been generated through the data collected from the literature review, ethnographic narratives, autoethnographic reflections, and artistic practice reflections. Within the written documentation, there are discrete elements that present genuine knowledge contributions to the field, particularly those theorising the feminine aesthetics of music production, as well as providing more context to translocal experiences of female music producers. The exegesis serves as an explanation to the project, underpinning the project as the culmination of all my thinking. It is a manual for the project, providing an overview and rationale of the project, a justification of the research method and design. It contains the theoretical discussions, documents the process and outcomes of the research, along with the future recommendations. The creative practice is in the field of music production, with the production of album Divine Affliction. The creative practice embraces the do-it-yourself ethos. I would like to make note that DIY also constitutes collaboration with your creative community. For example, I have composed all the lyrical content for the album, but I work with vocalists to sing some of the lyrics, and I work with photographers for the promotional images, along with a mastering engineer for professional practice. Feminist DIY has been a major access point for women to create music. The album, Divine Affliction, is an expression of the feminine aesthetic in music. It is a sonic portrayal of the duality of divinity and affliction, a journey through the female experience. This album presents an oral representation of the female process and application to music production. The musical compositions are inspired by the preliminary research and my own autobiographical experiences. The album is a shorter album consisting of 7 songs and would be defined in the experimental pop genre, with raw, introspective, brooding, emotive music. The album is a reflective lens of the project, where I gain research data from knowledge gained from the artistic practice. The album also serves as an educational tool to music production for females. Due to the underrepresentation of female producers in the field and barriers in accessibility to music production this creates for females, I have deconstructed my music-making process in the medium of blogs. These blogs are a creative pedagogical text called Divine Affliction Perception Through a Feminine Lens. They are a source of education that provides access to music production for females, representing a female producer in the realm of music production. The blogs serve 2 purposes. They are informative and reflective. They give an informative, reflexive view behind the production of the album, focusing on the creative process, and as a platform for me to publish my autoethnographic and artist research reflections that form knowledge presented in the exegetical text. These blogs are published on Medium along with my website. I am making a series of video tutorials covering accounts of the technical processes covered in the practice of music production. These tutorials are primarily instructive, educating females how to create music by deconstructing one song from the album and explaining the processes and application used on each element. These video tutorials will be aimed for a beginner audience and released on YouTube. I have also been working on a short poetic documentary called Divine Affliction to be released on YouTube the same day as the album. It covers audio segments of the songs and a short autoethnographic account on the intersectionality of gender and music production. The poetic documentary situates the research problem, articulating the concepts of the divine and afflicting intersections of gender and music production, serving as an autoethnographical contextualization and artistic rationale for the project. The poetic documentary, blogs, and video tutorials are a way of connecting people through being published via online networks. They illustrate the feminine aesthetics of music production and use representational theories to create media representations of a female in this environment, addressing the afflicting intersections of gender and music production. They are also a source of marketing and promotional material for the album. I have completed a substantial amount of work on the project. Following is a breakdown of this work and description of the work to be completed for submission. I am over halfway through the production of the album, with having completed 4 of the 7 musical and lyrical compositions. I have also recorded vocals on 2 of these songs, with vocalists Jamie Larkin and Katrina Whitney. I am currently finalising the final 3 song compositions on the album, then recording vocals on these. I will then proceed to complete the final mixes on the songs and send them off to mastering with engineer Michael Worthington at Soundworthy. Once mastering is finalised, I will create the cover design of the album in Photoshop. Here is an instrumental version of these 4 finished song compositions. I have published many blogs on this project, and as I finish more songs, more will be published in the series. I have also published the literature review of the project in the first 4 blogs to give an understanding on the conceptual and theoretical frameworks of the study. The video tutorials need to be assembled and recorded and will be released leading up to the album official release to aid with marketing. I have worked with a film crew for the filming of the documentary, Wayne McPhee as the director and Chasen Green was the director of photography. The filming has been finalised and is currently being edited and assembled. I have completed a draft audio recording of the script. Once the songs are finished, these can be added to the documentary audio, ready for final edits and mastering. The poetic documentary is a rationale for this project and the impetus behind it. Here is a segment of this documentary. Exchange. It's like a universal language. The experience of listening to music can give me goosebumps. Such an amazing feeling. Music connects us to our core self, like an ancient connection, bound to the heart. I feel it in my chest, the beat, the vibration through my bones, the call and pull on my soul. It's ancient calling. I hear, I come. I have finalised the ethnographic interviews with 9 female producers from Australia, USA, Netherlands and Mexico, and have completed the first draft of the reflections and narrative of these interviews, ready to edit to form the summary in my exegesis and develop the research findings and conclusion. I have made a lot of progress on my exegesis. I am currently editing the overview, literature review and methodology chapters. I then need to edit my autoethnographic reflections from my blogs and the ethnographic narrative reflections from the interviews, and compare these with scholarly research to back up my findings and develop my conclusions. I have also worked with other creative practitioners to create marketing and promotional material for the creative product. A friend drew my logo design for my artist brand, which is a cartoon portrait resembling me. I worked on this image in Photoshop and made it into a logo and chose a text. I then worked with graphic designer Danielle Ashton at Fresh Media Hustle to put the logo and text together into a PNG file and replicate this in other colours and some without text. I have also worked with Danielle to create a logo for the project Divine Affliction. I worked with photographer Jamie Larkin from House of Phoenix 11 to create the promotional images. Each song has an image to help tell the story. Collaborating with other creative practitioners has been a way for me to create my DIY community. While this project is centred on my experience, it is also about inclusivity and community. Evidence of this is with the connections made with the creative practitioners through collaboration to create the documentary and promotional material, along with the connections created with the vocalists and interviewees. I believe the completion of this project will be successful due to the amount of work already completed and work currently underway. I have gained many insights as a direct result of the work completed thus far, with both research questions being validated. The first is regarding the feminine aesthetics of music production, triangulated through creative practice, ethnography and theory, with theoretical debates, parallel narratives and through music making itself. These 3 things all support each other and make a cohesive argument. The second argument is on the underrepresentation of female producers in the field. The representational argument was triangulated through ethnography, autoethnography and theory, once again supporting each other and making a cohesive argument. Some examples of the feminine aesthetic in music production include the correlation between cavernous reverbs and the female womb. The resonance and hollowness of the cavernous reverbs have metaphorical ties to the internalised body, where the voice orientates. A female's womb is a cavernous place, moist and full of water. When the project is submitted, my goal is to start preparations for the album release and make a music video for one of the songs. The album release is planned for August-September, and I will be doing marketing and promotional work leading up to the release. I will also do an album release event along with the online release. After the project is submitted, I'm going to publish more blogs in the series on how to release your music and create digital educational packs of the audio samples and loops from the songs, along with the blogs and video tutorials, and distribute these via ClickView, Splice, and my website. I'm also considering doing high school workshops on music production, and each student will get a digital educational pack after the workshop. This project is not just about the making of an album. It is about the becoming of a female producer. This struggle is still underway. I intend to extend the scope of the work to continue these conversations and remain connected to the creative community established in this project. This project has inspired intentions for further ethnographic research, reconnecting with the female producers to do further research into the feminine aesthetics of music production. Thank you.